Sylvia Chicas. I've been living in Silver Spring, Maryland since I moved from El Salvador, which is about 8 years. I live with my mom and siblings. In all these years, I've been learning about my community little by little through school, friends, family, and my own experience. But I had not considered my community sustainability. Before learning about sustainability, I did not know what sustainability meant. Once I learned about sustainability, I thought the sustainability in my area was good in transportation and the different places people can visit to shop or interact with nature. However, through my class research, I learned that it's not the same throughout the Washington, D.C. metro area. I also thought we have a lot to do to improve people's safety, mostly at night. This thought was common throughout the community and supported by the data we gathered after the research. But I did notice it was worse in some places than in others. I learned that some places are isolated and do not have access to many options for public transportation. Public transportation is often crowded together in one area and ignore their other sites. For example, people who live in houses above Cabin Branch or west of Montgomery Village Middle School need to walk or drive to go from one place to another. It was very new to me because where I live there is a bus stop almost everywhere. I know many people who uses buses as their only way of transportation, and it works just fine with them. I had not considered people not having this option, so it was intriguing to learn about it throughout class research. Where I live, I have a variety of options where I can buy food and groceries that are nearby. In my small area, there are about 2 big markets where people can buy groceries. People even buy things such as milk and bread in 7-Eleven. However, in places such as Postville, people must drive about 30 minutes to get groceries, which was insane from my perspective when I learned about it. And even when they drive those 30 minutes, they do not have many options to buy healthy food. Some grocery stores are 5 minutes drive from my house and about 10 to 15 minute walk. Before this research, I did not think people suffered this problem since it did not directly happen to me. This discovery makes me realize that we need to research and learn about different communities and their conditions before making any assumptions. So after learning about these places that don't have the same access as me, I would consider myself privileged and lucky to have access to so many options where I can buy food and transport from one place to another. I realize that there is still a lot of work to do, so things are better for everyone, not just for some people in some areas. And like I have better access to these places, I experience some downside in my neighborhood that other people do not. For most of the research areas, we would not recommend people walk or be out at night. I experienced the same thing in my neighborhood, but it's a bit more dangerous because there have been times where people have been killed, stabbed, or people start shooting randomly. We also have a parking problem if you come late at night. You're forced to look for parking somewhere far from your house and must walk at night and often alone. In many other places that we researched within the Washington, D.C. metro area, people must be aware at night, but events, as I mentioned before, are not as expected. Through my interviews, I also learned how gender and age affect how we perceive a place. For example, for me, a female, my neighborhood is dangerous and would not recommend hanging out at night. But for my interviewee, who was a 13-year-old male, the same community seemed like an excellent place to hang out. He never felt any danger or fear. When I asked if he perceived the site negatively or positively, he told me he perceived it positively, which shows me how differently the male gender sees a place that I find dangerous. It shows how women feel more afraid at night than the male gender. The interviewee is not the only one. When I come back from work at night, I almost always find a group of young male adults and teenagers in the street without any fear that something would happen to them. While in my end, once I get out of my car, I have to check my surroundings and walk fast to my home. But of course, we have many places where we can go shopping or interact with nature and have a good time. There are places such as Brookside Gardens, downtown Silver Spring, Westview Wiener Mall, and Veterans Plaza. People from different backgrounds and social classes can coexist in these environments without prejudice and even share their culture. Many places are also a great source of employment for teenagers and adults from the community. Residents of the Washington, D.C. metro area are lucky to have this great source of jobs. It is not the same worldwide. For example, in Buenos Aires, Argentina, there has been a significant decrease in employment. When talking to a professor from Argentina in our global meeting in class, he mentioned that no new jobs are being created. and unions are not helping since they only help those who are already employed, which might be a reason why Argentina poverty rate is about 41% in 2020. Even without COVID-19, it would still be very high, about 39%. The Washington, D.C. metro area consists of a very diverse population. Most are accepted and can live in harmony, but in places such as downtown Silver Spring, homeless people are seen as a disgrace and a bad image since most people who live in downtown Silver Spring apartments are in the middle class. In a situation like this, we can see how people can value different things. For example, in my community, we can find homeless people on every corner or street with signs. Still, I never heard anyone say they give our community a bad image. Maybe because my community is not as safe or well maintained, so homeless people do not make much difference. This experience helped me understand other cultures, other lifestyles, and the different problems people encounter in their daily lives. It helped me develop a more sensitive side to the different cultures, learning how not to judge a whole community based on my own experience. Many people are part of the city and not everyone is the same. Looking at the community from the eyes of someone living in the opposite situation is very eye-opening. Our class conducted a survey where most of the participants were between 16 to 20 years old and were students. They were familiar with places such as Westview, Wheaton, and downtown Silver Spring. Many thought the sustainability was good and had a positive experience in the different areas we showed them. However, when we asked them to rate sustainability, most either gave it a 6 or 7 out of 10, which was surprising when looking at the other answers. One conclusion I came up with is the results are greatly influenced by the lack of knowledge of the participant about sustainability. Once they learn about sustainability, they change their mind and realize that it's not as good as they thought. This is normal for the age since most were teenagers and young adults, since we can guess that a significant number of them are not experienced with the working environment, some may not even drive or mainly rely on their parents. In our class, we all come from different backgrounds and live in different conditions. Still, we acknowledge that we can improve our community sustainability, consider the things that affect us directly and what we learn that affect others.